Hello there. Welcome to the HR Approved Podcast. Today I'm pumped. We've got the man, the myth, the legend, one of the co-hosts of Chad and Cheese Podcast, Chad Sowash. Here's his LinkedIn, Mr. Chad Sowash, HR's most dangerous podcaster, startup advisor, angel investor, awesome dude, U.S. Army veteran. He's been in recruiting. He's worked at some of the major job boards out there. He's co-hosting the Chad and Cheese podcast. Very entertaining. Highly recommend anybody in recruiting, talent acquisition, HR to follow him. Very awesome podcast. We're going to chat about his background. I kind of won't go into that. I'll let him walk through it, but I can't wait to chat with Chad. Maybe we'll get Cheeseman on later, his other co-host, this guy up here. And yeah, hope you enjoy. Let's dive in.
Well, all right. Welcome to the podcast. Chad, how are you, sir?
Another day in paradise, my friend. It's good. It's a good day. It's a good day.
Yeah. So you're in Portugal right now, right?
Yep. We're gonna actually be coming home here sometime soon. We've got a gig in Madrid next week, so we're gonna be in Spain for about a week, bouncing around Spain, and then we'll come back after that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm jealous of the travels. I feel like I hang out with you all the time because I've always got your podcast teed up in my watch later list. But yeah, I was super excited to chat with you. I'm a big fan of the Chad and Cheese podcast. I discovered you guys on TikTok. So it was like just random reels coming at me on TikTok, and I'm like, Chad and Cheese, what the heck is this? Like,
for these guys, yeah.
Who are these people? But the algorithm, it knows what holds my attention.
What you want.
You kept showing up, and you remind me of an old boss that I have, and he was kind of a ball buster, kind of shit talker. He was blunt, a little punchy, opinionated. And so I get.
So when did we work together?
I'll have to introduce you one day. But yeah, I feel like I get a lot of recruiter humor. I get like this high level 30,000-foot view of what's happening in like the whole talent acquisition space. I don't know shit compared to you guys, but I'm listening, I'm learning, I'm laughing.
Good.
And I appreciate what you guys do. Are you coming up on, is it 7 years or 8 years doing the podcast?
Eight in March.
Dude, that's awesome. How many times have you come close to hanging it up and just quitting?
We haven't. I mean, it's and knock on wood. Good God, knowing what's going to happen next this year. Yeah, I mean, it's been good. It's about 6 months in. We started to really find our stride, and we exploded. And I mean, this is 2017. It took me about a year to get Cheeseman off the couch. Finally, when I had to rally the ladies, though. The women actually got it done. So my wife and his wife was pretty much, they pushed him into it. We had a commitment of a year, and we had sponsors on day one. We had 400 people said they would subscribe and listen on day one.
Wow.
And then, I mean, but we, at that time, had both been in the industry 20 years. So we had a pretty big network. So yeah, 6 months in, and then we exploded. Then we had to start creating new series of podcasts because there was just demand for things that just wasn't out there. And there were no voices, go figure. Imagine that in HR. A couple of white dudes who were dropping F-bombs. I mean, it's not normal. We weren't sure who was going to listen and if, old HR ladies would have problems. But to be quite frank, we'd go to a SHRM conference. They'd come up and say, you were saying what we've been thinking for 30 years, keep doing it. So it works for all ages, all demographics.
How'd you get the guy to do your intro? Is that like a cameo? Who's the actor that does that?
That's a guy off Fiverr. I mean, we literally, and that was the original guy. This is really early to our starting, because at first we didn't have an intro. And then I was like, dude, we really need an intro, because I was in radio before joining Monster, before it was Monster back in 1998. So I was always focused on production value, frameworks, formats, those types of things. Segue from one to the next. It was one of the big things. We got to get something that's a hook right out of the gate. And Joel found this dude, and he is amazing. So Yeah, literally, it was by chance on Fiverr.
That's awesome. And how'd you get Christopher Walken to do the outro?
So Christopher Walken got all these celebrity impersonators, which are just, I mean, it's a Fiverr thing. And Joel kind of gets it every now and again. He'll kind of get a bug up his ass, and he's like, I want to do something. I want to write something. He has an idea. And then next thing I know, we've got a new outro. We've got a new intro. We've got some new sound effects. I literally reached out to a really good friend of ours who is Scottish, and he sounds Scottish through and through. And I had him do literally lines and just read lines. So we went to a studio, read lines, and now we have like 20 new sound effects with Stephen McGrath's Scottish voice. I mean, it's just little things like that make the show ours. Nobody else is going to have those.
I love it, man. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, man.
You want to introduce yourself just for the people that don't know you, a little bit about your background, how you even got into the podcasting world? And
yeah, it's an interesting story from the standpoint of right out of high school, I went into the military. Overall, I was in the military for 20 years. I was active for 4, popped out, got into the corporate world. Before I got into this recruiting technology area, I was in radio. So, and it was right at the cusp when everything was starting to become digital. And if you know what 8-track tapes look like, most of you probably don't, go ahead and Google it. That's what a lot of the commercials ran off of. They were literally 8-track cassettes, and everything was going to digital. Well, I was in sales and advertising, promotions, and those types of things. And I was learning, because I was just a tech geek. I was online. I was learning all these digital production platforms. And then lo and behold, I joined the recruitment space 20 years later, start a podcast, about 20 years, start a podcast. And literally the tech I can now put on my computer, and it's almost the same thing. So it was like this cycle that came together that literally it just worked.
very cool. Yeah. So you've actually worked for some of the major job boards as well, right? So I think it's you worked for Monster, and then you spent time at Randstad. Then you got into consulting. I guess, I was wondering about that. Like, aside from the podcast, and I know you go to a lot of conferences, but what do you actually do for a living for companies?
I mean, the podcast is where I spend a lot of my time. I am a startup advisor, angel investor. We have probably, the last count is probably about 14 startups in our portfolio. We also have another company called Catch-22, which has a consulting arm. We acquired a company, actually my friend's company. He's getting ready to retire. It's called the Job Board Doctor. And that's actually helping a lot of, I don't want to say legacy tech, but a lot of these smaller companies progress into new technologies, whether they're job boards, whether they're marketplaces or what have you. So my wife and I, she literally was an executive director and started up a company called Disability Solutions. She was there for 13 years, and I finally got her to leave. Now she's leading our company because we need her as the CEO, not my dumbass. And we're working together. So we've got a few employees, media being part of it. Obviously, Chad Cheese podcast. I also have another podcast that is called Talent Chasing with Brian Johnson, who is a Major League Baseball player, retired, former Major League Baseball player and scout, and Jasper Spanjart, who is a filmography kind of guy, right? He's a documentary kind of guy. So it's really cool. I got a lot of diverse in my day.
Yeah. Wow. You're involved in a lot more than I thought. So I see like promotions of products and things. And if you go to Joel's page, it's like strategic advisor, like 15 companies or something. So these are like companies that you guys are invested in and also help and promote at the same time, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, there are probably, I think, 2 companies that we advise together. The rest of them are entirely different. So yeah, I've got about 14. He might have about the same.
Okay.
But we're only advising probably 2 or 3 of the same companies.
How do you and Joel know each other?
So we met probably about 20 years ago. I was a VP at Direct Employers Association. I was there for 10 years, and he was literally Cheesehead, the blog Cheesehead. So it was literally before Chad and Cheese was Cheesehead. It was a blog He talked shit about companies. I mean, it was fun, right?
Right.
He
Okay.
also did search engine optimization for HR companies. So that was like the side of his business, which had started as the main part of his business, much like, Chad and Cheese flopped over and became the main aspect. But he was coming in and we were talking about him doing SEO for our company and then prospectively doing some promotions with him through the blog.
Interesting. So besides discovering that profanity really boost your views, what else have you learned, like some secret sauce for rookies about podcasting?
Well, I treat it like a business. That's all there is to it. You've got to have a business plan up front. You have to have a partner who understands the business plan. There has to be revenue. There has to be products. And again, I hate to sound like an American because we productize and monetize everything. But if you want to make this your full-time hustle as opposed to just a side hustle or something that's happening every now and again, you have to be committed. You have to have a schedule. I mean, this has to be treated like a job. And that's what we did right out of the gate.
Nice. Yeah, I think I'm just tinkering still. I had the Imperial Security Bureau podcast, like 19 episodes of that. But overall, I'm kind of toning that down, moving more back into my lane, kind of what I actually know, right? Just because you play 6 or 7 cybersecurity engineers doesn't mean you're qualified to host a cybersecurity podcast. So yeah, just toning that down a notch and not being an imposter there. I might just keep it alive, but we'll see. I've got till June to decide what I'm going to do with that. But I'm going to fucking cuss a little bit more, I think, because it's working, right? But it was funny.
Yeah.
My 4-year-old came into my office. He came in the other day. I was listening to you guys, and you had dropped an F-bomb, and he says, "Daddy, he said a potty word." I say, "Yes, he did." But profanity in the workplace, right? Like, the science says that it actually brings people together, right? So it's fair play.
Yeah, I think it depends on how you use it. I mean, if you're using it at somebody and you're telling somebody to fuck off, that's much different than having a reaction to something like fuck or, damn it or whatever it might be that people can really associate with, right? And I think one of the things that we have definitely lost, and again, 20 years in the military, understanding that there's a lot of empathy that needs to happen. A lot of people have things that are going on outside of the workplace that you don't even know about, right? So you have to be empathetic. And if somebody's, if they're having a bad day and they drop an F-bomb or something of that nature, okay, maybe you want to have a discussion with them. But, again, I think a lot of that has to do with workplace culture. Not everybody's going to be that way. There are going to be people who are buttoned up. Everything is by the book. And then there are going to be ones that are a little bit more loose and then ones that are way loose that are, they just say what you want, when you want, how you want.
Yeah. Well, it works on me. I hear somebody cussing over there. I'm like, hey, who's hanging out? What y'all doing? Let me join. But talking about things that are a little fucked up right now, what's going on in this job market, man? It's rough out there. Some of the stats are crazy.
It's going to get more rough. I mean, it's going to get more rough. I mean, if you take a look at it, one of the things that we learned from COVID was that essential workers will break us. I mean, the people who are not making a lot of money, picking and packing and driving and doing all those things, not making a lot of money, they can and will break us. As we see a lot of these ICE raids happening, we're going to see a lot of those individuals who are doing those jobs getting pushed out of the workforce. That's going to be millions of individuals and jobs that are prospectively dock worker jobs, that are drivers, that are, again, these are things that are problematic to our way of life in the U.S. And that was our superpower. One of the reasons why Germany is on their ass right now is because their fucking immigration is shit. They're bad. It's hard to get in there, right? Now, it's worked for a while, but you have to be able to be nimble like a startup, and you have to be able to flex. Germany's been around for a while, so they're not as nimble. The U.S. is starting to try to be nimble, but I don't know if it's the right way. Plus, we're getting ready to drop who knows how many white-collar federal workers onto the job market. Are they going to be pickers and packers and drivers? No. So we're going to have a huge mismatch in the market. We're going to have all of these jobs open up for hospitality and all the things that that immigrants are doing. And who's going to fill those jobs? What's going to happen? And then we have all these people who have great skill sets, who have great education, and there's not going to be anything available. So it's going to be rough.
You know, it might just take a little bit of encouragement from the right voices to say, look, guys, I know it's not what you'd envision. Everybody can't be a social media influencer, you know, so here are the roles we need in the country. Like, here's the work that we need to do. Let's rally. And, you know, maybe there'd be an opportunity to kind of raise some of the pay for some of these jobs, but maybe it might be painful for a little while, right? It might go through several months of pain where some things go unfilled, but then, you know, people might part ways, get out of their comfort zone a little bit, maybe start to fill some of these jobs. I don't know. I mean, as a recruiter, I wonder if maybe my job, you know, AI might take over my job. Shoot, I might be an electrician or a plumber one day. You know what I mean? Who knows what's in store for the recruiting community? But sounds like overall you're predicting, instead of a hiring spree, you're predicting more layoffs coming, I guess.
Yeah. And even talking to Matt Lavery, who is over talent at UPS, and that guy hired 125,000 people. It's 125,000 people in 5 weeks. He did that with the team, but they've also started using AI automation and those types of things, and it's happening very fluid. But his prediction for 2025 was pain in the specific market I was just talking about. It's going to be incredibly hard to think it's going to be a few months or maybe even 6 months. We're talking, especially for those types of jobs, to be able to get the types of automations to try to retool people to do those jobs. It's going to take a hell of a lot longer than that, because It's not just one segment of jobs. It is all across the board.
But I was going to ask you about DOGE. Do you think the DOGE, you know, Elon's thing is going to work out? Because they were interviewing him about his Starship and how he builds his engines and everything. If you look at the evolution of like his Raptor engines, you know, stage 1 was just a nasty, gnarly looking thing. And then if you look at the version 3, it's a sexy, you know, streamlined looking rocket, right? So he's basically said, like, look, you have to delete stuff to find out what was actually needed. And when you find out that, oh, we actually needed that, like that was completely necessary, you add it back. But you don't know what you've got until it's gone. So I wonder if we're going to go through some pain. He's going to delete some stuff. And then the stuff that's absolutely necessary, they'll have to bring it back because too many people will complain. But we might actually find out that we didn't need some stuff too, you know? What do you think?
I think that's easy to say when you're running a startup, right? And even if that startup is a rocket ship company, right? It is much easier than running a government and having 330 million people's lives on the infrastructure of a government, right? It's an entirely different. So you can say you can delete stuff when you're running a startup, right? It's really hard to do when people's lives are pretty much in the wake of what you might do. I appreciate the waste, fraud, and abuse that happens within our country. Every country has it, right? To be able to identify, then isolate what that might be, and then delete it, I think is much smarter than just going in and just deleting it and waiting for somebody to cry in pain.
Right.
That's not very humane. And I mean, again, Elon, that's the kind of thinking that he has. Totally appreciate that. He's got some very, 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 very incredibly successful companies. He has the most money in the world. Totally get it. But again, that's not running governments. It's entirely different. We can't run a country like we run a company. We've heard that before. It's not how it works. But, you know, at the end of the day, I hope they don't start deleting. They already have, but I hope they don't start deleting a bunch of things that put American workers in pain. I hope they really focus on identifying where the excess, where the fraud's at, where the bad spending's at, and they go ahead, they isolate it, and then they extract it. Because again, we're talking about people's lives here. That's much different than, taxpayers' money on a rocket that just exploded in space.
Yeah. It's not like we're trying to send Gaza $50 million for condoms, Stuff like that just really makes me shake my head. But I agree, man. That's going to be tough. I don't want to, I don't want anybody to get hurt or
people are
lose
in pain,
their
man.
livelihood. And, I don't want that to happen. So, yeah, they've got to be very careful with it. But I do know there's a lot of sneaky shit that happens with all the money we send to the government, man. It's, especially like the CIA and, now I'm on some watch list, but CIA and the DOD, it's like, man, audit the Fed, audit the Pentagon. They don't know where any of this shit's going.
Yeah, we spend more money, and again, this guy being in the military for 20 years, we spend more money than the next 9 countries in defense
combined, right?
Combined, and in 2 of those countries, only 2 of those countries are not allies. So it's become a complex. You've heard it before, the industrial complex, the defense industrial complex. They do come up with some really cool shit, but you also got to remember there's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse that happens there. And that's unfortunate. We need to have the watchdogs. And here's the hard part, okay? And it's kind of almost like the antithesis. What they're saying and what they're doing are 2 entirely different things. They're deleting a lot of the watchdogs that are out there. What they should be doing is doubling down on the watchdogs and saying, okay, we want reports, because Elon can't go into a lot of these areas and actually isolate and identify where fraud's happening. He's not an expert in those areas, right? That's why you need those experts, but they have to be accountable. And you have to go through those things. We need to double down on watchdogs so that we spend a little bit more money on enforcement, so that they can actually pinpoint billions of dollars that shouldn't be spent in the first place. I mean, that's a good investment.
We'll see, man. It's going to be an interesting year. But
Jesus, yes.
Yeah, I don't trust the government anyway. I don't care who's in charge. But
no, I agree. I agree 100%. I agree 100%. I mean, and again, Ronald Reagan, he was the guy who pushed out trickle-down economics. He was a Republican, but we've had plenty of Democrat presidents and administrations during that entire time. Shit's still not changed.
No.
Shit is still not changed. And the American worker is getting shortchanged. They're in pain. Why we see profits go to the top and they never trickle down. And people who deserve more money aren't getting more money. Guys are fucking building super yachts and shit. They've got support yachts for their super yachts. I mean, it should never happen, right?
It's insanity.
Yeah, especially in the strongest country in the world. Should be the healthiest. Should be the most educated.
Yeah, we're a complete shit show, aren't we?
Unfortunately.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Dude, what's up with these drones, man? Do you feel like, I don't think we're getting the full, clear picture here. I think whatever the press secretary came out and said, that is some bullshit, dude. Because there's orbs, a lot of drones who say they're all approved. Like, I don't know. You think it's aliens? What's going on here?
I think that technology today is just so readily available and cheap that we got shit all over the place. Not to mention, we have a lot of money that we're spending in defense. And I mean, so yes, this is a joke, guys, but I can't imagine that a UFO would be hovering over New Jersey. The fuck would they be looking at New Jersey? I mean, like maybe DC, or maybe the Gigafactory or something like that. Okay, I totally get that. Spy drones or something. But Jersey?
Yeah.
The hell?
Like the weird looking drones, maybe they look like UFOs or whatever. I think we have those ships, but it's the orbs that I was like, what is that? Oh, I mean, that looks like something biblical, like the wheel within the wheel. And like, it was freaking me out, man. I was like, what is about to happen? And then nothing happened. The news cycle is so short. It's like, oh man, that was last week. I forgot about that.
Yep. So much shit getting thrown at us every single day.
All right. Well, let's talk about resumes. Everyone
Okay.
seems to be talking about the death of the resume. I don't think I understand that. Like, how's that supposed to work?
It's hard to believe that the resume is still around, to be quite frank,
Really?
especially for all of the jobs that are out there. Many of the jobs, I mean, I just need to test whether you have the skills that we need or not, right? I have requirements. I have 4 requirements, or I have 5 requirements, whatever those requirements are. I just need to know proof that you can actually get those done. Can we do that today easier than we could 5, 6 months ago, year ago, 10 years? Yes, it's getting so much easier. So do we really need a piece of paper that says what you can do? No, I don't need that. What I need to know is if you can do those things. So if you take those tests and if you have those, and I advise for a company called C Squared that has CV Wallet, and their focus is being able to give me, the candidate, all of my certifications, validated, those types of things, background checks. Why does a company need to keep my background check? That's bullshit. That's not their background check. That's my background check. So that sticks with me, right? So all of these things become mine, and my wallet, my portfolio, what have you. That to me is what the death of the resume looks like, because I don't need to look at a piece of paper with a bunch of marketing bullshit that you just throw into Chat GPT, right? I don't need to know that. What I need to know is if you can do the job. Here are the things I need to know. And the biggest issue that I see, Blake, is that most companies, even managers, don't understand the tasks to the job in the first place. They don't know what an individual does day by day by day, because a job is nothing but a load of tasks that you do either on a daily, a weekly, a monthly, whatever they are, but they're just all this big line of tasks. And if they don't know what that is, they're not going to know what the requirements are for a job. So we really need to implode a lot of the job descriptions, the requirements, because to be quite frank, they're outdated.
Maybe I'm just not looking at it from the right perspective, because, I've always done technical recruiting. They're 100K to 200K jobs. So maybe that's why I wasn't understanding, like, how are we going to get rid of resumes? Like, you need that. I guess you could apply with a LinkedIn profile and all the links to your social media.
Well, what's the kind of job that you'd be looking for like 100, 200K job?
Well, I was software engineering, but
so if you go to one of the platforms that have the like coding challenges and tests and those types of things, they generally have portfolios. They can match you up with somebody who actually has, the skill sets that you need. I don't need a resume for that. I just need to know. And to be quite frank, I have a project I need to get done. I know the languages that we want to actually go ahead and develop in. I need to be able to go test these individuals to see if they can actually do what they say they can do. The resume in itself, it doesn't mean anything because it doesn't prove anything. Right?
Yeah. You got a point there. It reminds me of a conversation I had with Daniel Miesler. He was talking about people need to kind of evolve to human 3.0, where you're always broadcasting yourself and what you're into and posting, your progress online so it can be found later. And then he also envisioned one day there'll be something, he called it the astral score. It would be like people could participate in like a 3 to 5 day interview with an AI that would really assess every aspect of your capabilities and your personalities and
3
your
to
attitude.
5 days?
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be like the whole time, right? But maybe like chunks, 2 hours a day for 3 days or something. And he said, you would watch videos with this thing and it would be looking at your reaction. You would do little coding tests and, it would watch you complete task and just see kind of what you're capable of as a human. And then at the end of it, you would get an astral score and then it could match you with jobs. So he said companies are working on it right now, and shitty versions of it would come out this year. So we'll see, man.
Anything that's facial recognition is going to automatically get flagged. And ask HireVue about that, because the state of Illinois actually created a regulation that wasn't written well, but they created a regulation that was specific to facial recognition and not allowing that to happen, because individuals, and let's say, for instance, you react different than I do. Wait, the human does not have the exact same reactions, right? Which is one of the things that they're going off of. The big difference is, what about individuals with disabilities and how they react? Can they do the job? That's what matters. Who gives a shit about if their left eye twitches or they look up to the left or up to the right when they're answering a question, right? So it's the thing that gets me, and this drives me crazy, is when we talk too much about the shit that just doesn't matter. Period. What matters? Can they do the job? That's all that matters. And that's what we found out during COVID. The individuals with disabilities, actually, they're always the highest of unemployment. During COVID, came down dramatically because they could do the job. Why? Because they could do it from home.
Right.
And that was important. So could they do the job? Yes. Could they do it under the parameters that the companies had before? No, because they had to come into an office. Well, shouldn't be the parameters. Can they do the job? That should be the parameter.
Yeah. Well, either way, the stats were brutal. I think it was JT O'Donnell. She was a guest and said that job seekers, when they apply, there's a 99.7% failure rate. On average, people need to apply to 294 jobs to land a job. So, wow, how do we fix that? Is it the AI auto-apply bots that candidates use? Is that going to only be met with resistance from the applicant tracking systems with their AI screeners? How are we going to fix this?
Yeah, that's going to be a question for the ages. But I think right out of the gate, the auto applies that are going to be happening can definitely be shut down by more advanced non-legacy applicant tracking systems. We've got applicant tracking systems that have been out there for 20 years and some older, right? So, I think some of the new age applicant tracking systems, they're already looking at that. They're already thinking about that. You don't have a form that takes half an hour to apply to. You're actually chatting with a bot or you're talking on the phone, and it's not a synchronous type of scenario. It's async, right? Just like you'd said before, it doesn't take 2 or 3 days. It just happens in chunks. I think that's what's going to happen. And to be quite frank, if a job seeker is using that kind of technology and it's not lying, it's actually saying that I have the skills that I have, who gives a shit?
Well, you guys talk a lot about Paradox, and the other tool is Job Pixel, and then there's a lot of them, but yeah, where you can do like an instant interview, basically. Oh, you walk into the store, do the QR code, you're automatically like right away chatting with an AI bot. It's going to ask you a few knockout questions. If you pass, interview right now.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool, man. That could be the game changer, but it's going to take a while to adopt, and we'll see where it goes. But overall, I think when people apply to jobs, they're filling out these long questionnaires, and depending on what ATS system it is, it gets elaborate, or some of them just let you upload your resume and just the basic information and press submit. But sometimes it's asking some questions that I feel like should be illegal, right? Because it's illegal to discriminate against people given a lot of these data points that they're asking. So I'm just wondering, like, when you're asking me my gender and what my pronouns are and this, that, and the other, it's like, what's happening behind the scenes with that data?
Yeah, that's collected in many cases, and I mean, pronouns are not a part of it, but that's collected in many cases. Going back to the pronouns real quick, because I think what they want to do is, if you are an individual that they want to talk to, they want to know how to actually have a conversation with you. That to me it's important for some companies. For some companies, they don't care. For some companies, they do care. But a lot of the information that's actually they ask for, they don't have to ask for it up front, but they do because they're lazy and they've been doing it that way for years, right? So we had a paper application and it was on the paper application. So what did we do when we went online? Well, we just took the stupid fucking paper application, then we turned it into a digital paper application. Right. Instead of ripping it out and saying, what do we really need from this right out of the gate? But a lot of that information is used, whether it's up front or it's later, for reporting purposes. Many of these companies get hundreds of thousands, if not millions or billions of dollars from the U.S. government, and they have to demonstrate. They have a higher bar to actually clear with the OFCCP, or at least they did with the OFCCP, and that was the reason why they did it. They usually over-index instead of, just getting what they need. They try to get more than what they need right out of the gate, which is one of the reasons why there are these dumbass application processes that take half an hour, even longer.
Yeah, but it's just there's a big debate right now over DEI, and companies seem to be, abandoning it and whatnot. And I want to be clear, right? I love diversity. I love placing females. I love, placing anybody that has good communication and they've got the skills, the client's looking for. I'll submit. Like, I don't discriminate. I like to say I hate everybody equally. But, in my humble opinion, at its core, DEI, it's illegal, I think, because by definition, it's illegal discrimination. If a company posts a job and the rule is that job cannot be filled by a white male, that is illegal. I don't see how it's even up for debate. So I'm kind of glad that we're going to abandon that. I don't see companies immediately ignoring all diversity candidates, but at least now they're not going to be able to just press a button and ignore all white males.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing, is that when you take a look at a lot of these companies, a lot of them, especially at the top, they're all white dudes, right? And many of these companies want to be able to actually resemble the communities in which they work, and they're not. Many of these companies want to sell to women, to Black females, to the trans community, whatever they want to do. It's entirely up to them because it's their company, right? So therefore, they want to try to embrace and become more like their community. So I'll give you a great example. If they are pulling in individuals who are of diverse class that are not qualified, that's discriminatory toward a white dude. If they're pulling in an individual who is qualified, that's not discriminatory at all. You are just trying to replicate what you are to your community. You're just trying to look like your community. If I'm on a customer service call and I pick up and I'm in the US and somebody's speaking in a Midwestern, bland, boring, tone like I do, right? Okay. I totally get that. If I get the same thing and they have an Indian accent, that might throw some people off. Is that right? Doesn't matter if it's right or not. It's how the actual customer feels. So therefore, a company wants to actually assimilate to the society, the community that they are providing service to. Is that wrong? No, that's not wrong at all. It's called capitalism. And if the white dudes don't like it, you're the ones who fucking created this shit. Tell them Milton fucking Friedman, for God's sakes.
Yeah. Sometimes I get kind of how it came about, but I feel like the younger generation's kind of paying for the sins of their fathers now, and they're the victims of this. Like, they can't get jobs because of racism in the past, and it's just like, I don't feel like it exists anymore, hardly. So
tell me where white dudes are having problems getting jobs. I mean, because you take a look at numbers, that's not the case all the way through. Now, there are anecdotes where it's like, oh, I didn't get this job because she beat me out. Well, overall, women are still getting paid a hell of a lot less. White women, 25 cents less on the dollar, and that is the closest. The next is 40 cents, 50 cents less than a white dude doing the same job. So we want to sit here and whine about not getting the job when somebody got it, was qualified as it was. Doesn't matter. They're not going to get paid as much as you did in the first place. So, I mean, again, that's not a government problem. That's a company problem. We want to look at the government and point our finger when it's actually the company who's screwing us.
Yeah. There was an example of a friend of mine that I ran into randomly. I was at one of my kids' swim meets, and we got to chatting about the market or whatnot. And he told me a story. He's like head of operations, I think, it's a big Fortune 500 company. And he was telling me he's got a guy on his team. He would love to promote this person, already earned it. He wants to promote him into a director role. He wants to do it, but he can't do it because for him to promote a white person, he would have to get full board approval. But instead of doing that, he has to leave the role open, and they're trying to fill it with a diversity candidate, which he needs no approval. So in that instance, I was like, it's kind of fucked up, don't you think? Like, you got a guy already in the company, already earned his stripes, blood, sweat, and tears for the company, and he's already earned the promotion, but they can't give it to him because he's a white guy. That's illegal, in my opinion. So there's victims on both sides. I just feel like we should all be colorblind. Like there should never be a time when you decide to make a hire based on something that should be illegal, you know?
Again, that's the company that is the company's choice that they're making for a reason I have no clue.
Right.
But one of the things that we would call this, because I worked with major Fortune 500 companies with regard to compliance and worked directly with DOL, OFCCP, and EEOC on this, is they would call it Friends of Bob. It's like, yeah, I can't find anybody else in this space, so everybody on my team looks like me, right? That's what we call Friends of Bob. And that's bullshit, especially when you actually do the research into some of those areas. The talent pools would be flush with people. And if they weren't, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to go after the best talent in the space anyway. So, I mean, yeah, it depends on the company, but pointing your finger at somebody like the U.S. government for some of these things when that's not even in the rule, for goodness sakes, that's on the company. That's not a government thing.
Yeah. Well, Mark Andreessen, he's been pretty active on the podcast circuit recently with, Rogan and a lot of them. So if you want an in-depth explanation about how, DEI has just basically gotten completely out of control and kind of ruined itself, you can just listen to him. He was part of Facebook's board for, since 2012, and he's watched it happen over the last 10 years. I mean, it was enlightening to hear him talk about it.
I think it's funny because Mark Andreessen doesn't know shit about compliance and or DEI. He's a white dude who is now riding the wave of this anti-DEI stuff. I've listened to it.
Yeah.
I've been in this. I'm a fucking veteran, okay? I've actually worked with companies to be able to build veteran hiring programs, and my wife has actually worked with companies to build hiring programs for individuals with disabilities. Listening to a guy who has no fucking clue what he's talking about, and because he has the name and he has the money of Mark Andreessen, everybody wants to take the anecdotes like they're the rule of law. And it's total bullshit, man. That's the problem with what's going on today. We have all these people who we look up to for no fucking reason other than they have a lot of money. He has no clue what he's talking about around DEI. Now, there are other areas like investing and startups, and man, I want to listen to that shit. But as soon as he starts talking about DEI, I start rolling my eyes because he has no fucking clue.
Yeah, well, I respect your opinion. I have debates with my father-in-law quite often because, he's, hardcore Democrat. I'm hardcore Republican, but I respect his opinion. I respect your opinion. I feel like it's all kind of a gray area, and where's Joel at, right? Joel, we need to get Joel in here. I need some backup. I think that I have a theory.
About DEI. He's talking about, and again, another white dude who has no DEI experience whatsoever. Yeah, let's call him in. Let's do that.
No, I just, I feel like he's kind of a closet R, and
no, he definitely is. Dude, I was a Republican for 40 years. And only because of the stupid shit that's been happening did I start voting different ways. And it's not consistent by any form or fashion. And that's the thing, is that if we call ourselves a specific R or D, why? I'm looking for the person that I align with most, right? And at the end of the day, it might be, I might be moving center, I might be moving one of the other ways. But we have to be fluid as individuals because the market's changing, the world's changing, everything's changing around us. If we don't change, the fuck does that mean about us?
I think it just comes from respect and keep an open mind. But yeah, it was funny, you and Joel. Like, I felt like you were being a little hard on Joel because you guys were in this heated discussion over fact checking and should Facebook fact check and whatnot. And like I said, I have the same argument with my father-in-law because I'll send him something. Something I think he should look at because he's like a hardcore JFK Democrat. And I'm like, man, you know what? You don't realize this, but if JFK was around today, pretty sure he'd be an R, So I think somewhere along in his childhood, somebody made him swear to God he would never become a Republican. So he's in it forever. But the thing about it is I'll send him something and he can always fact check it, right? He can always find an article online that says that kind of debunk what I've shared. And then he'll send me something And everything he sends me, I'm like, that's not true either. I can find an article that, would have the opposite opinion. So it's like impossible, it's like, but again, I respect everyone's opinion. I'll fight for them to have an opinion. And I had this theory. I want to run it by you. I heard that your political opinion and how you feel about things can depend on like something as simple as your brain chemistry. So if your brain has an affinity towards dopamine, then you're likely to lean left. And if your brain has an affinity towards cortisol, you're likely to lean right. So it's feelings versus facts, basically, right? Facts don't care about your feelings, and the feelings disregard the facts. But, if that is true, I don't know, it's not proven, but, we kind of have no reason to demonize each other over being right or left, because if it's brain chemistry, it's kind of completely out of our control.
Yeah, I think I don't know about the chemistry. I'm not a chemist. None of that, right? So it's science. I'll take the scientist research and double fact checked and peer checked and all that stuff, which we don't see online, right? You see in universities where there's the peer checking, the fact checking, those types of things. We don't see that online a lot of times. But when it comes down to it, where I draw the line is how people are treated. That's what matters most to me, is how people are treated. And as the United States of America, we should have the most healthy, most educated people in the world.
No doubt.
And we don't. And we
Yeah.
don't. Why?
Not even close.
Why? Because 20% of our GDP is fucking education, because we monetized it, because we productized it and monetized it. It is more expensive for my kids to go to college than it is for them to go in the UK and still get a great education. Healthcare, we should have the healthiest people, period. One of the reasons why 75%, I think that's actually a low number, 75% of the individuals who try to go into the military can't, is because of health issues, because of medical. If we're not taking care of our people, we do not have a society. If we don't have a society, we don't have a country. That's the thing that, for me, that's where I draw the line. And that's what I care about the most, especially being a father. I want to make sure that my kids are educated and that they're healthy. They've got those two things, they can go out and kick ass. And that's what I want everybody's family to be able to do.
Yeah. I worry about the same thing. Part of the reason why I want to start my own agency is because, I want to build something that maybe I could give to my kids one day and they could get involved with and take it and run with it. But, with the emergence of AI, I wonder, by the time they're of age, because they're only 7 and 4, by the time they're ready to join the workforce, it's like, man, is AI going to do all this? So I don't know, just have this big fear
that's hard. That is hard, man. But I tell you what, you said it earlier, AI is not going to take a plumber or HVAC position, right? And the things that I've seen, because we don't have as many carpenters, plumbers, electricians, those types of things. And when I went through high school, we had a comprehensive high school, which meant you had your college track and your track where you could become a mechanic, a plumber, HVAC, and then go directly into the community and start working after you graduate, right? Perfect. Then all that shit got taken away. And now we don't have, it's hard to find a plumber. I'm lucky that when I'm back in the States, my next door neighbor's one, but he'll even say that they are just dramatically low on talent. And that's even with those companies bringing in people with no experience whatsoever, training them up, paying for their certifications, and signing them, much like the military does, into a contract, like a 3-year contract. That's the thing, is that we have to take a look at some of these AI automation proof jobs, and then also take a look at some of the AI jobs. It's still going to need humans. I think recruiters are still going to be around. It's just they're going to have to adapt to an entirely different landscape.
Yeah. And like you said, in Europe, right, I even had, for a period of time, we had an au pair, and I don't think we could have survived without him. God bless him. We had a South African au pair for 2.5 years, Rico, bless her heart. And then we had a couple others. They didn't last quite as long. Some friction, with the wife. But anyway, but she basically landed a job with like KPMG or Deloitte or something like that. They're going to hire her. They're going to pay her to go through college and become a financial analyst or an accountant or something like that. And they pay her away the whole time. And then she'd have a job when she got out. So maybe the American companies are going to have to adopt something like that for it to all work out.
We used to before trickle down economics, because what would happen is you would get tax breaks when you would actually upskill your current employees. Attrition was much longer. I don't know if you remember or not. I do. People used to stay 40 fucking years with the company that they'd be with, right? They didn't have a 401k. They had money waiting for them at the end, right? And the company had all of that. They had the retirement funds already there. Thing is, when we changed the system entirely, we used to focus on the people, and the people would drive our profits. That was the whole focus. We flipped it. We focused on the profits instead of the people. Profits over the people. And that's where we're at today. Hopefully, and I hope you're right, I hope that we do that flip, but we're going to have to do something in government to make that happen, because it's going to take a stick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other stat that was super concerning is that 23% of Harvard MBA graduates can't find a job. They can't find a job. Shoot, my friends at NC State, they're in trouble. You know, what are they going to do? So,
well, and here's the big problem. Actually, I just talked about this on a podcast not too long ago. So in the U.S., they try to get you from undergrad to grad as soon as they possibly can. Why? Money. Whether you're ready or not, they want to get you into that master's program, into that graduate program as soon as humanly possible, because that is cash money. In Europe, my daughter just started going to her MBA course in Brighton. And she is the youngest. She's 25. She's the youngest in her class. Most of the people in the class are mid-30s and above. Somebody's in their 60s in the class. Why? Because you have to have business experience. Oh, wait a minute. Before you go after your fucking MBA. Yeah, no shit, right? It makes sense. That makes sense. Why? Because they are not trying to juice the kids for the money. We've got a bunch of kids now in the U.S. that are what? They're in debt. And they're going to go in debt because they went after that and they were told, hey, get that Harvard MBA. You're going to have a job as soon as you get out. That's bullshit.
Yeah. Thank God my parents, they were, they foot the bill for my college education. So I'm super lucky in that regard. But still, I was an idiot and got into credit card debt.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I was like $30K. And, just the dumbest human ever. I've changed a lot, but, well, hey.
Join the club.
Yeah, recruiting changed my life. It's going to break my heart if it ever goes away. But, well, how are you using AI? Chad, have you switched to DeepSeek yet?
No, I have not yet. I have not yet. We use Riverside like you do. It does obviously transcriptions, and then it starts to use some type. I don't know what they're actually using, large language model, but they're actually compressing and they're using the transcription to be able to create titles and just a bunch of really good information. Now, generally,
it's incredible.
Yeah, but generally, it's kind of a little bland, not snarky enough, not funny enough for the actual transcription that happens. So I will throw it into ChatGPT and I will tune it a little bit more there, if not just write it myself. Then take a look at, depending if my guy Sergey is doing the thumbnail or not. If they're not, I'll go to ChatGPT and I'll start working on thumbnail art, those types of things. Then there's Opus AI we've used in the past. You throw in your video, your audio, just your whatever
Opus
you have.
Clip.
Yeah, Opus Clip. And
I use it, yeah.
Oh, man. And then it just pops out all these AI videos. So something that would have taken me easily an entire day or two, if you include the video clips, now takes me half an hour.
It's definitely good for content creation. That's
amazing.
There's no doubt about that. I just, wonder though, if it might go too far, because there's some YouTubers that I follow, like these guys that are training people. They've got communities and whatnot, but they're training you on how to automate the entire YouTube video creation process. And a news article comes in, flows into Airtable. There's an automation in Zapier to ChatGPT to rewrite the article. Then there's another feed into like a video generation platform like in video. Then it goes into Opus Clip and it creates the captions, and then it feeds it right into YouTube and some of these platforms, and no one's even touched it. No one's even seen it. I'm like, I don't actually want this nonsense. I don't want it on the internet. I don't want to see it. Like, if a human didn't make it, I don't want it.
It's interesting because there are actually podcasts that are coming out now using Google's technology, and it's just weird. Not to mention, if you take a look at Riverside, that they have enough of our voices trained, and they've cloned our voices, so you can actually put in text and it'll read it in your voice. So yeah, it's weird. We've also had our voices trained and flipped over to Spanish, Portuguese, French, and German.
Now that is cool
to do the podcast. Yeah, that is really cool. So we've been using AI for a while now, but at the end of the day, I think you're 100% right. There's got to be, I think everything will turn incredibly bland if we just get into these Zapier to Riverside to YouTube to, I mean, it becomes incredibly bland and boring, which is wonderful for us, because if the rest of the industry turns out, which is what it was before, to be quite frank, and one of the reasons why we popped up to the top, because it was so goddamn boring. If it goes back to just boring, just monotone, we win again anyway.
Very true. Yeah, let them make all the videos they want. Nobody's going to watch them, right? Well, hey, about the job board space, every time I listen to y'all's podcast, you're always up to speed on what's going on in that world, and I have no idea what's going on. I do know that Indeed wants a lot of money, and ZipRecruiter wants a lot of money, and LinkedIn wants a lot of money. They don't want to post any agency jobs for free. So if you're advising like a recruiting agency or startup, like what tech stack and job board integrations do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to tech stack, I mean, there's a variety of factors like industry, jobs, what country you're working in.
Okay.
And then there's obviously an area, this is an area where recruiters should become experts in the space to bring better point solutions to bear. I mean, you should be bringing these things to the table, because we're not anymore. We used to be in a set it and forget it landscape. You'd buy an applicant tracking system, plump, it would go down, and pretty much everybody would forget it. Now, the system would continue to generate new features and all these different things, but the company never implemented those. They just set it and forget it, right? Now we're in a situation where we cannot do that. And that is exactly where a recruiter, they should have their hands dirty. They should have their sleeves rolled up. They should have their hands dirty, and they should become experts in this space, especially in their industry. When it comes to Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and those job boards, to be quite frank, the staffing agency, they created this monster per se. We saw what was happening. It was a Trojan horse that Indeed was going to come in, just like they did with job boards. They're going to give them all this free traffic, and then they're going to yank the rug out from underneath them, and they're going to make them pay for the traffic. You get them hooked on the heroin, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? So the staffing companies saw this happen, and so they allowed it to happen to themselves. What they should be doing, these staffing companies have spent millions, the bigger ones, hundreds of millions, if not billions, working for Randstad, obviously billions of dollars, in being able to attract candidates into their database. Where do they search first? Not their database. Why aren't they, as soon as a rec is posted, why is it not going into that database, doing a search, and then pulling back or inviting those candidates to apply to this new job as quick as possible, so that you don't have to spend more money on Indeed? Because what are you doing anyway? You're paying for that same goddamn applicant over and over and over. We haven't learned. That's the problem. As soon as we learn and we start to take a look at those leads that we already have, great candidates, great people that are already in the system, we have systems that are constantly reaching out to them and asking them questions, maybe asking them to
take fresh version of the resume,
new coding tests, or questions about another type of job that you could prospectively lead them into instead of the one that they originally applied to. Maybe they're more qualified for something else. We have the technology to be able to do that. We have the databases, and we spent the money on doing that, but yet we continue to go out and do the same thing over and over and over and buy the same people over and over and over. So once we stop doing that, I think we have a chance. But until then, Indeed owns you.
Yeah, it's a feature that you would think a lot of these platforms already have, right? The moment you post a job in the ATS, it should be showing you the top 10 candidates right away without you even doing anything. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to hit up the customer support team of Recruiter Flow. That's my ATS. And they've got a good product, but what they lack is really accurate parsing. Any resume that comes over from Indeed, the grid view is not populated at all. I have to look at each resume individually. I'm like, wait a minute. They're telling me they don't have the ability to parse those things. They just have to depend on the data feed from Indeed. And I'm like, wait a minute, ignore the data feed from Indeed. Just parse the resume like you normally would. Well, you can do that manually. I don't want to do that manually for every resume. So just little stuff. And then there's no relevancy scoring.
Where I do that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. There's new tools coming out all the time. It's almost make your head spin because it's like, wait a minute, do I try this? Do I try that? So I've tried AI interview platforms as well, and I get mixed reviews. What I found when I used the AI to actually call the candidate, have the interview, was half the candidates choose not to participate. They don't want to talk to a bot. So, you lose half the candidates. Yeah, I mean, you definitely lose all the passive job seekers because they don't want to talk to a bot. It's like, wait a minute, I'm not talking to a human. I got a job. I'm fine. That's part of the struggle there. Have you found the same thing?
Yeah, I think it's different, passive versus active, right? You've got somebody who's looking, they don't want to go into a black hole. They're used to going to a black hole. So you have the ability to then start using a bot to be able to have those conversations and to be able to do some of the work that a human doesn't have to do, because you have to scale better as a business. And the only way you can do that with humans is to get more humans, which is more overhead, et cetera, et cetera. So what do you do? When do you do it? And that's one of the things that most companies are starting to understand is that, look, when I'm going after somebody who already has a job and they're not actively seeking, we need a recruiter to go after them.
Right. Yeah.
That is a head hunting exercise is what that is. Exactly. Versus being able to go into or have somebody come at you as a candidate and then try to apply for a job. So you really have to understand the experiences, much like you were talking about. If you have a database, you post a rec, it should go into the database. It should have that information parsed. If you have some individuals that you're not sure if they have the requirements or not, then you text them and say, hey, we're looking at possibly having you come in and apply for a specific job, but we want to ask you, do you have this type of skill? Yes or no? How many years? Okay, cool. And then if they're good, then you ask them to apply, right? That's great engagement. Hey, we're interested in you. We really like you. We'd like to be able to ask you these questions. And then you invite them to apply, they apply. That's the intent for them to apply as a candidate. Then you can do whatever you need to do in the system. Go through the automation process, go directly to scheduling them for an interview. Depends, right?
Definitely for applicants. You can take them through a whole nother experience. And like you said, the passive job seekers are going to need a cold call, a headhunt. They're going to need a carefully personalized InMail to hit their inbox. What about the AI sales agents, like the cold call agents? Have you explored any of those?
I haven't explored any of them. I mean, my background is sales. I would assume, and we're going to see how those play out, because Sintra, they have like a whole host of different types of bots. They've got customer service, sales. We'll have to see. I think from a customer service standpoint, once again, you've got two entirely different things. Customer service, somebody's coming to you to ask you a question about something. Instead of going into a queue and waiting 20 minutes, can a bot answer my question? Right? Or can I go into chat and actually get a human as well? That's better than sitting on hold. Versus somebody's calling me or somebody's reaching out to me. Should that be AI or should that be a human being? If it's a phone call, man, it better be a fucking human being. I usually don't answer anyway, unless I know and your name comes up on my phone, right? So again, you've got different experiences and you have to be able to assess those different experiences in which the type of point solution you use, whether it's in or out.
Yeah. As a solo headhunter, I feel like I can never do enough BD, right? Whether it's 90 minutes or 3 hours. And tons of LinkedIn DMs. I know I'm not making enough cold calls, so I am about to experiment with a platform called Sales AI. I don't know if you follow the influencer on TikTok. Her name is McKenna Johnson. 100 and something thousand followers on TikTok. She's a sales guru gal. But anyway, she went over there, and when they did reach out to me, I was like, I've seen this name before. Is this the same company? So like, it's expensive, but we'll see where it goes. I'm going to try it for a few months. But so you can create unlimited agents, and you can train them to say whatever you want. So now when you call my website, you can go to Hyperdrive Recruiting or HR Approved. The number, you can talk to a friendly Southern gentleman named Walter. And it's an AI, right?
That's cool.
If you say the right things, you might wind up on my calendar, right? And then there's outbound agents as well.
Yeah.
Apparently they can make 40,000 phone calls an hour. They told me don't do that because, you really want to throttle it, because especially if you're a one-man show. If you have a team of 50 people and then you can delegate all these meetings. But I've been tinkering around with the prompt, trying to get it to say exactly how I want these calls to go. And I'm not trying to pretend that, Walter is a real person. Like in the cold call opener, it's going to say, hey, this is Walter. We don't know each other. I'm an AI cold caller. Do you want to hang up the phone or hear me out for a second? So it's kind of like you give people an option. I would be willing to bet some people might say, I've never gotten an AI cold call before. Let's see where this thing goes.
Yeah. Well, you can have fun with that too.
Yeah.
Hey, this is an AI bot. Why don't you listen for a minute and see if you can tell whether I'm real or not? It's kind of like, are we live or Memorex? Remember those old commercials with the Memorex tapes?
Oh yeah.
And it's the same kind of thing. Am I live or am I Memorex? So, but again, let me know how those work. I'd love to be able to hear that.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted. I did reach out to every recruiting influencer I know on LinkedIn, and no one had tried it. No one had heard of it. No one's experimented with it. So I'm being a guinea pig here. So we'll see, man. I don't know. But here's the fear, right? Mm-hmm. If I've got an AI sales agent that can do 40,000 calls, well, there's 400 and something odd thousand recruiters just in the U.S. What if we're all using those tools? I mean, it's going to ruin phones. Nobody's going to answer ever again. It's even worse than it is now. So,
No, that's a great point. The big ask at this point is, as an early adopter, which sounds like, you've talked to a bunch of people and they're not using it, you get ahead of everybody else before all of that shuts down, right? So you get a chance to actually build your business faster.
Small window.
Yeah, and get ahead of those people much faster, and before they actually start doing the same thing.
Right. Yeah. My thought process is, hey, look, as a small shop, if I can get 30 or 40 clients signed up based on this expensive tool, because it's expensive, and I can turn it off. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm through the hardest time, which is the new client acquisition, right? Because right now it's just tough, man. Tough out there getting clients and feeling little deals here and there, but I haven't found like the honey hole where I've got, a client that needs 12 of the same job order and have a good quarter. I'm just kind of treading water, and I hear that's kind of what all the solo agencies are doing right now, or a lot of them. Some people are doing all right. It's just been a tough market, especially for tech recruiting. I've had to transition to revenue generating jobs. I haven't seen a developer job in over a year, right? So the only jobs I'm seeing are revenue producing jobs, sales, marketing, advertising that produce revenue. That's the only thing I'm finding that companies are willing to pay a fee for.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because so many companies over-indexed on developer talent for so long, or tech talent for so long, because they had the money. And they could pretty much bleed the market, which is irresponsible, to be quite frank. But, it's the game that they played, and it makes it even more irresponsible when, the market starts to take a turn, and then they have all these individuals that they really didn't need in the first place, and they were just trying to keep away from their competitors, and then they just dump them on the market. And that's happened on several occasions. I mean, we've seen, obviously, Facebook do it, Twitter for an entirely different reason. But a lot of heads lopped off just because there was a bunch of bloat.
Well, hey man, last question. Do you have any habits, daily or weekly routines that you feel like has led to your success?
Got a lot of them. I would say one that I have spent more time on lately, because we're We're on our computers, we're on our phones, we're all over the place. I take time to get away from all those things, because one of the things that we used to do that we didn't even know we were doing is spending time with ourselves and actually in here, in our head, right? And thinking through things and problem solving and doing all those different things instead of asking ChatGPT to do that. So that's more of like mental exercises that I do on a daily basis. When I'm here in Portugal, we have a beautiful boardwalk. I'm by the ocean. I can go down there and I can literally just not be connected to anything but me. And I think giving yourself that time is incredibly important. Take care of yourself before you take care of anybody else. Much like when you're on a plane, they say put the mask on yourself before you do anybody else, because if you don't take care of yourself, you aren't worth anything to your family, to your peers, to you. So take care of yourself. And I think that, to me, after going 100 miles an hour and just working my ass off for many, many, many years, it's helped me out a lot.
Good one. Yeah, I'm guilty of always having some kind of media up. I'm a YouTube junkie, and my watch list, is
Me
going
too.
from 50 to 150 videos. I'm trying to get through them. And, but yeah, we need to turn the devices off and just give your intuition a chance to kind of listen a little bit. So
It might be scary, but give yourself some time to be with yourself.
right. Be bored.
Remember when you were kids and you would say that all the time, Mom, I'm bored. That shit doesn't happen anymore.
No.
Where's your phone, Mommy? Where's your phone? Can I watch Bluey?
Need something stimulating all the time.
Yes.
Well, Chad, you've been awesome, man. I thought like maybe some of these subjects I thought I was going to get in trouble, but man, it was fun
all
to
good,
talk
man.
to you, and you've been an awesome guest. Thank you for agreeing to come on, and maybe we can chat again a year from now. But I'll continue being a fan, and I'm going to like, subscribe, and comment to Chad and Cheese.
Thanks.
So,
Anybody else out there, do the same. I appreciate you having me on. I love having these conversations. I actually make time for these conversations. And you see a lot of people who get to be leaders in certain spaces or industries or what have you. They don't make time, and they deserve to make time for themselves, but also for other people. Right. And I appreciate you asking me on, because again, this is a treat for me too.
my pleasure, sir. Anytime. Well, hey, I'll give you the rest of your day back. Can't wait to edit this and put it out. I'll tag you. And yeah, man, have a good rest of your week here, and we'll be in touch.
You got it, man. Take care.
Thanks, brother.
Little bonus footage here. I thought for fun, just for S&Gs, I'd give old Walter a call, my AI agent now for Hyperdrive Recruiting and HRapproved.com.
Hello, this is Walter, support agent with Hyperdrive Recruiting and HR Approved Resume Writing Service. How can I help you today?
Yeah, I'm just calling in the market looking for a job.
Great, happy to help. Feel free to explore our website, hyperdriverecruiting.com, to see if any jobs match your profile. Even if you don't find the perfect match, we encourage you to send us your resume through the website so we can notify you if anything comes across our desk. May I ask what type of role you're looking for?
Well, yeah, I'm a technical recruiter, hoping to find something maybe at a tech startup.
Okay, I'll make note of that. Just curious, how's your job search going so far?
Oh, not too good. It's a tough market out there lately.
Understood. Would you be interested in hearing about the career services we offer, like a professional resume review or LinkedIn profile review?
Sure. Why not?
Well, you've come to the right place. We have several career services to choose from our website, HRapproved.com, that goes beyond recruiting for jobs. Would you like me to walk through those services for you?
Yes, please.
Sure thing. No problem. So we offer a basic resume and LinkedIn profile review for $249. We can do full resume and LinkedIn profile rewrite for $599. We also provide 30-minute job search strategy coaching sessions for $149. We can even help you prepare for an upcoming interview for $199. Would any of those services be of value to you?
Yeah, I think I could use a resume review for sure.
Okay, great. Those services are booked through our website, hrapproved.com. Feel free to visit the site, choose a service, and it will guide you through booking an appointment. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
Yeah, Walter, can you tell me a joke?
I want to make sure I understood your question correctly. Are you asking me to tell you a joke?
Yes, please.
I just want to make sure I heard you right. You say you were ready for me to transfer you to one of my team members?
Oh, yeah, that'd be fine too.
Thank you for your patience. I will now transfer you to one of my team members who can assist you further.
What do you think? Pretty good, huh? See where this goes.